Hey Divi Nation, thank you for joining us in this live stream. Today we're going to show you how to interactively highlight contact details in your Divi footer. We're going to use the Divi theme builder, so without any further ado, let's get to it. Alright, so I want to say hi to everyone on YouTube and Facebook. If you guys have questions, make sure to leave a comment on both platforms and I'll be keeping an eye on them. So over here, let's start off by showing you guys the preview that you can expect. So we're going to redesign this footer, and if I hover a particular contact item, the copy changes, and you get, for instance, here the phone number, follow us, you get some handles and an email address here. So we have this interaction going on, which is really smooth. And yeah, it could definitely help you elevate the design look and feel of your website. And we're going to build this from scratch using Divi and WordPress. Over here, I have a page, the same page, but without the footer. And we're going to build the footer on this particular page from scratch. So yeah, the first thing you will need to do is go to the back end of your WordPress website. Just log in real quick and go to Divi theme builder. And over here you can notice that I already have a custom footer which is assigned to this one over here. And we're going to build that exact same footer on a new template which is dedicated to the use case page here. So yeah, I'm just going to click add custom footer, build custom footer. And we're going to build this from scratch. So I'm going to select the first option here. I also want to mention that you can find the blog post to this tutorial in the description below, where you can follow everything step by step. But you can also download the template JSON file if you just want to get started with the design off the bat without having to recreate it from scratch. But in this tutorial, we'll just guide you guys through how to create it, and then you can use it for other purposes as well. So if you want this kind of hover effect where the space is split up between 3 different items, keep following along. All right, so once inside the template editor over here, you can notice that I already have a section, and I'm going to work with that section. So before I add rows and modules and stuff, I'm going to prepare my row settings by opening them. And the first thing I'll add here is a background color. So we're recreating this entire design style, but you can tweak these settings however you want. All right, so we need this background color, and I'm going to add a first row. Now, the row I'm adding uses 1 column. So yeah, this is a column structure. I'm going for 1 column. Although over here you can notice that there are 3 items and they appear next to each other horizontally. To be able to achieve this effect, we're going to need only 1 column, and we'll place these items next to each other as we move further down the tutorial. All right. So I'm going to open the row settings first before adding modules. I'll go to the design tab, sizing settings. I'll enable use custom gutter width and use a value of 1 here. This just removes space between modules and columns if you have columns, in this case only modules. I'm also going to increase the width to 90%, and I'll use a max width of 2580 pixels, which is more or less full width on most screen sizes, and we're reaching 90% of this max width value at all times. I'm also adding some bottom padding, 1% to be exact, and that'll just help us create this line between the 2 rows here. All right. Then I'll go to the advanced tab, and actually I'm going to open the column settings. So over here, if you go back to the content tab, you can notice that there's a column, and you can open those settings, go to the advanced tab. And to be able to place different modules next to each other, we're going to use the display flex property, and we'll use a flex direction, which is row. So these are the 2 lines of CSS code that you'll need to add to the main element of the column to be able to place those modules next to each other using the flex property. And we're going to enable the responsive option there, and we're going to bring this down to display block, which is just regular display on tablet and phone, where we don't want it because we don't have the space for it. So on smaller screen sizes, we want them to show up vertically instead. For that reason, we're bringing back the display to block on tablet and phone. So now that I've prepared the containers, being the row container and the column container, I can start adding modules. And as you'll notice over here, these are quite similar. So we'll start off by creating the first one, and then we can reuse this for the follow us and email modules too. All right. So let me just add a text module. So that's what we'll be using. And we'll also be using responsive content, which I'll need to get. So let me just copy that really quick. All right. So the first one, as you could notice, is call us. And we're placing that copy in between H3 tags. So we're using H3 for this. And we're going to modify this content across different screen sizes. So if I go here, let me just show you guys a preview on smaller screen sizes. You can notice one big difference here, and that's the fact that by default, the call us copy has the phone number included there as well. Now, if you hover it, only the phone number shows up. The reason we're doing that is because, smaller screen sizes, hover is replaced by touch, and touch is something that isn't as natural as hover, if that makes sense. People don't have the urge to click on everything, especially if it doesn't seem to be clickable. So for that reason, we're including the phone number on smaller screen sizes to make sure that the content doesn't get lost. But however, if they were to touch it, if they were to touch the specific item, the phone number would show up in that styled way, if that makes sense. So, okay, we're changing this into the call us copy alongside the phone number. And same goes for phone. Usually when you make a modification in the tablet state, it automatically gets inherited by the phone. But I always make sure to double check just to see if it's all definitely functioning as it should, which, is just good practice to check on things. So make sure that you check both these, that they have the phone number there as well. And there's also, so besides the responsive options for content that you add, which is definitely something I feel everyone needs to explore and play around with, because it can definitely make a design different on desktop and different on smaller screen sizes, and just focus on your visitor's behavior. Besides that, you also have the hover option for content. So if you hover the title, you'll see an icon, and you can switch over to the hover tab there. And obviously there we're going to include the phone number. So we're basically just changing the content on hover into the phone number. Next, we'll add a background color. So we're using a white background color. We're changing that background color on hover to a very particular color code. So let me just copy that. Again, you can find all of the color codes, steps, and the template JSON file by going to the blog post in the description below, or you can just read it off the screen if you prefer it that way. Then we're going to style the heading 3 settings over here in the design tab. The font we're using is called Oswald. A bold font weight, uppercase. Let me just switch back to desktop view regularly over here. So uppercase, we can add some underline there as well. Center text alignment, a black text color here. We're using VW as our text size value, just to make sure that it looks good across all screen sizes. So 2.5 VW on desktop We're increasing that value to 4.5 VW on tablet and 5.5 VW on phone. For those of you that don't know what VW is, the V means viewport and the W means width. So you're basically just taking a percentage of the viewport and adjusting your text size accordingly. And because of the display flex, you can notice that the module stops where the text stops, which we don't want, and we're gonna bring it back to 100% in the sizing settings, which you can notice over here already increases in size. So now basically the module is taking up the entire width of its parent container, which is the column. All right. Then we'll go to the spacing settings, and for responsive purposes, we're gonna add some margin on tablet and phone, which is going to be 1% on tablet and phone for the bottom margin there. And on desktop, we want 1% for the right margin. Let me just go back to desktop here. We want a little bit of space on the right side, so 1%. Let me just show you guys in the preview here. So the space between the modules, that's the 1% we're using on desktop. And because of the positioning of the modules on smaller screen sizes, we're going to get rid of it on tablet and phone by just adding 0 to both options here. So 1% for the bottom margin for tablet and phone, and 1% for the right margin on desktop only. Then we're going to add some padding, top and bottom, 10 VH, viewport height. And this will just, using VH, I feel like in this case, it doesn't need to be set in stone. Doesn't really matter how much space there is, as long as there is enough space. And it's more important that it fits the viewport your visitors are visiting on. So that's the reason why I chose VH there. And now I'm going to go to the Advanced tab, and to create this kind of hover effect, we're going to build on the display flex properties that we added to the column, and we're going to add a flex, being one, a position relative, and also a transition. To create that kind of hover effect between different modules, so to allow this to take up more space, we're going to modify the flex value in a hover state. So enable the hover state on your main element, switch over to main element, and add flex 3. Now this will come into play as soon as we add more of these modules inside the same container. So yeah, let me just save the settings, and now I'm just going to clone this twice. And as I'm cloning it, you'll notice that they appear next to each other horizontally. So this is a very neat trick to know just for different kind of designs. This is built using Divi and CSS, and obviously you're going to want to change the content responsively. So change it for tablet and phone, and on hover, same goes for the third one over here. And you can tweak these however you want. All right. And also important for you to change the spacing a little bit. So we're going to open the text module, the second one over here, so the one in the middle, and we're going to modify the spacing settings just a little bit. So we're going to remove the right padding, the 1%, because we don't want any excess space. I'm going to save that. And I'm also going to make some changes to the spacing values of the third one here. If I open this, I'm going to remove the right margin here and add 1% to the left side instead. So this just means the reason we're doing that is because we want the text modules to touch the left and the right side of our column container. If I were to keep the 1% here, we would have a little bit more space on the right side of our screen, which we don't want. We want exact alignment. So that's the reason why we're going for 1% there. And also make sure that you remove that on smaller screen sizes by adding 0. on tablet and phone. All right, so this is as far as the technique goes. I think a lot of you guys are going to watch this for this specific approach, and it's also what the tutorial is called. So I'm just going to save this and refresh my screen over here. And there we have it. Now I'm just going to continue building the rest of the footer. If you had the knowledge, if you've gotten what you wanted from this tutorial, good. If you want to see how this is further built, keep on watching, because now I'm just going to focus on adding the style in the footer items here. All right, so I'm going to add a new row here. I'm going to use 4 columns. And again, I'm going to prepare the container, being the row. I'm going to add a background color to my row, which is the following color code. Also, I'm just going to quickly check if there are any questions so far. I don't see any questions, but be all following along. Make sure to leave a question if you do have one. All right, I'm going to move on to the sizing settings. Use custom gutter width with a value of 1, 90% for the width, 2580 pixels for the max width here. We're just bringing these to the same level. I'm also modifying the spacing values here to create a little bit more breathing space. 100 pixels for top and bottom padding, and 8% for the left and the right side. And we're changing the top and bottom padding to 50 pixels for tablet and phone, and just slightly more space on the left and the right side being 10%. All right. Then I'm going to add a first text module over here. Let me just grab the copy really quick. So this is going to be in H4. And then we're modifying the H4 text settings. Let me just paste those here real quick. Oswald for the font, uppercase, a white text color. Then we're modifying the font size across different screen sizes, 26 pixels for desktop, 22 for tablet, and 18 pixels for phone, and 1.3 EM for the heading line height over here. We're also adding a bit of bottom margin, 20 pixels to be exact. And I'm going to add another text module right below this one, and this will contain the footer links. So we're placing them all in one text module. You could use separate text modules as well. I just find it convenient to place them into one content box and just modify the link to each one here. Saves you time. Let me just grab the text settings for this too. So we're using Lotto. This is the link text color we're using. It's the same as the hover background color of the items in the first row. 17 pixels for the link text size. And then we're going to go to the spacing values, and we're going to remove the default bottom margin by adding 0 pixels. But we're using 50 pixels on tablet and phone, where everything is stacked vertically. So you want enough space between the different groups of footer items. And basically right now we have the first set of footer links or items, whatever you want to call them. So now we can reuse that easily by just removing the remaining columns. So column 2, 3, 4, let me just remove those. And now I can clone the first one up to as many times as I want to have, similar columns going on in my design. And obviously you'll want to change the content, the duplicate content of each one of these new columns in your row. And make sure that when you go to the last column over here, because of the stacking order, and you go to the spacing values, you remove that 50% bottom margin just to ensure that you don't have too much space going on smaller screen sizes. The last row uses 2 columns. Let me grab the copy for you guys. We're using a text module here. But before we style that module, we're just going to open the row settings and again bring it to the same width. By going to the design tab, sizing settings, custom gutter width with a value of 2, 90% for the width, 2580 pixels for the max width. And now you can style this however you want. Let's just take a lot out here to follow the design style. 17 pixels for the text size. We're going to clone this and we're going to place it in the second column where you can add some other details. These can be links to your terms and conditions or terms of use and privacy policy. And to create this kind of mirroring effect, we're going to use right text alignment on desktop, but we're going to bring that back to left text alignment on tablet and phone, where the stacking order again is differently. So yeah, this is our footer design, which you are able to download for free by going to the blog post in the description below. It's directly mentioned. I think it's the first link, yeah. And over there you can also follow everything step by step with print screens, so screenshots and color codes, steps, all of that good stuff. If I refresh this over here, so the preview, we can take one more look at the outcome. So here we have it. So obviously you'll need to tweak all of these duplicate modules, but here's the design. I'm just going to take one more look to see if there are any questions. So I see one question: would it be possible to change the background to display an image instead of solid background color as the module stretches out? Yeah, for sure, you could definitely play around with that, but you should be able to. Thanks for the comments. So, all right, I don't see any more questions, so thank you guys for joining. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up, and I hope to see you in the next one.